Alrighty. It's Friday, so happy Friday to you, to all my Monday through Friday 9 to 5ers out there. You've made it. You made it to the finish line. It's Friday. Hopefully you guys have had a great week. We're going to try and cap this week off with some more winning plays. Who ended up working out for you last night? Who ended up letting you down? I think one of the big letdowns was probably Nicholas Batum over 10.5 points. Look, he crushed his fantasy point score, but the real life points just weren't there last night. I think he finished with 6, but we had a couple of heroes last night, guys who came through. We had Scotty Barnes over 7 rebounds. That ended up working out. We had Fred VanVleet going over 2.5 three-pointers. He had a monster game. If you took any overs on Fred VanVleet, whether it be points, fantasy points, three-point makes, well, he went to the moon last night, to the moon against Philadelphia. So Fred VanVleet absolutely smashed last night. Now, I had Andre Drummond's fantasy points. I had him going over. Now, I blame Doc Rivers for this one. Andre Drummond did not check into the game until the last few minutes of that game. I don't know why. I blame Doc Rivers. Poor coaching, poor rotation management. But yeah, as soon as Andre Drummond checks in, Philadelphia ends up going on a run and actually had a shot to win the game until Fred VanVleet sunk all their hopes and dreams. But that's kind of just a little recap of some of the plays that I remember off the top of my head from yesterday that worked out and some that didn't. If this is your first time here, my name's CJ. Welcome to the stream. Or if you're watching the replay, welcome to the replay. Hashtag replay gang. Nothing wrong with that. I know you guys are busy out there. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I'd appreciate you doing so now. And if you want to make sure you're on top of the content game, anything that I release, you're going to want to make sure that the notifications are turned on. We're looking to make our way to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That's right. We're setting a lofty goal, guys. 3,000 subs by the end of the year. You know, January 1st, 2021 is when I started this content creation journey here on YouTube. It would be amazing if we could hit 3K by January 1st, 2022. So I'm putting out a lofty goal out there. A lofty goal. So if you could share this with anybody who's into player props, fantasy sports, basketball, that would be much appreciated. And you guys continue to amaze me with the amount of support that you have given me in terms of liking this content, subscribing, sharing, and all the things that you do. So I appreciate that. Now, we did fall short yesterday on our like goal of going over 99.5 likes, but I have faith that on an 11-game NBA slate, maybe we can get there today and return to glory. So I'm going to set the line at 99.5 likes. I'm taking the over because life's too short to choose under, right? So I'm going to go with the over once again. Appreciate everybody, though, who has jumped into the chat this morning. 24 of you already. Dustin, what's happening? Boston's up in the house. Dave is here. Jared, good morning to you. Arrington, what's happening, my friend? We've got George up in here. Good morning to you, George. Focus is up in the house. Who else do we have? Alexis, Crunchy Pie, AA's in here. Anthony's in here. Call Me Abel is in here. Los is in the building. What's up to you, Los? Los has been in here for a few days now. He's checking in frequently here. Saludos to you too, Edward Fernandez. Thank you for joining in the chat. I appreciate all of you guys for showing up this morning. Hopefully you're sipping on some coffee, an energy drink, or maybe you're like me and you're just sipping on some water. But enough of that. If you don't play on PrizePicks yet, check them out. PrizePicks.com. There's a link down in the description below. 100% instant deposit match on the first $100 that you put into your account. So they're doubling your money dollar for dollar. It's a risk-free bet, man. The first entry you place on PrizePicks will be totally on the house. Doesn't come out of your pocket. It's coming out of their pocket. So the way you take advantage of that, PrizePicks.com, promo code Curry. Get that offer today. Let's go ahead and look at today's slate. We got 11 games to talk about. Let's get moving. New York Knicks at the Charlotte Hornets, 7 p.m. tip-off time. Nerlens Noel, the only injury news that may be impactful from that one. We've got the Detroit Pistons at the Cleveland Cavaliers tipping off at 7:30 p.m. Kelly Olynyk is expected to miss some time. For the Cleveland side, we've got Kevin Love and Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton, who's going to be out for a while. So Markkanen and Sexton already ruled out. Kevin Love, game time decision. Could impact a guy like, I don't know, Jared Allen perhaps. Jared Allen could be impacted by that. Evan Mobley could be impacted by Kevin Love returning. 7:30 p.m. Milwaukee Bucks at the Boston Celtics. This is primetime TV type of matchup right here. We've got Giannis Antetokounmpo, Brook Lopez, and Grayson Allen all on the game time decision list for the Milwaukee Bucks. Out for Milwaukee already. DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton continue to sit. And then on the other side for Boston, we know Jaylen Brown's dealing with that hamstring injury, unfortunately. So that's the big one from the Boston side. Then we've got Phoenix at Memphis, tipping off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Landry Shamet and DeAndre Ayton on the game time decision list. Dario Saric continues to sit for Phoenix. Some big ones for the Memphis side. Dylan Brooks, game time decision. Maybe he's getting closer and closer to returning to the lineup for Memphis. Steven Adams, though, also on the injury report. So be on the lookout for Steven Adams. If he sits out, then, man, Jaren Jackson Jr. could get a lot more run, a lot more rebounds, a lot more of everything with Steven Adams out of the way. For the Portland side, we've got Portland at Houston. Norman Powell, game time decision. Kevin Porter for Houston, game time decision. Be on the lookout. Those are two pretty impactful ones for both teams. Then also at 8 p.m., Sacramento Kings at Oklahoma City Thunder. Halliburton, the only one on this injury report for either team. That could be a big one for Sacramento. 8 p.m., Brooklyn Nets at New Orleans Pelicans. Kyrie Irving, no surprise here, continues to sit out for Brooklyn. But on the Pelican side, we've got Brandon Ingram as the big one there, and Zion Williamson, of course, continuing to sit for New Orleans as he looks to get back in shape. 8:30 p.m., battle of the two Texas teams, the Dallas Mavericks at the San Antonio Spurs. No Maxi Kleber for the Mavs. For the Spurs side of things, the biggest one would probably be Jakob Poeltl? However you say his name. That's probably the biggest one from the Spurs side. 9 p.m. Atlanta Hawks at Denver Nuggets. DeAndre Hunter and Bogdanovich, both game time decisions. For the Nuggets, we've got Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. as game time decisions for the Nuggets. 10 p.m., Chicago Bulls visiting the Golden State Warriors. Kobe White, now a game time decision. He's been ruled out in previous games, but I think he might be getting a little bit closer to coming back in. Nikola Vucevic is going to miss about 10 games from what I've heard, so no Vooch. That means Tony Bradley might be stepping in for the Chicago Bulls here at center. On the Golden State Warriors side of things, we've got James Wiseman, Draymond Green, and Damian Lee all on the game time decision report. Klay Thompson not expected to return to the lineup until sometime in December, hopefully. I miss Klay Thompson greatly, dearly. 10:30 p.m., the last game on the slate, the Minnesota T-Wolves at the LA Lakers. We got the likes of Rajon Rondo. We got Mason as game time decisions, and then a long list of players that have already been ruled out, including the king himself, LeBron James. So there you have it. Let's go ahead and look at today's props.cash trends. If you don't use props.cash to do your player prop research, well, I don't know. I think you're spending probably too much time doing player prop research. That's where the value of props.cash comes in at just $19.99 per month. It's unbeatable, guys. Not only do they have NFL, but they also have NBA, and they just introduced NHL, which is still in a beta phase, but still, it's usable, it's up, and you can actually go on there and start researching some hockey props if you wanted to as well. So check out props.cash. There's a link down in the description below for you to try them out. Take them for a spin. Maybe you love it. Maybe you don't. That's okay. Nobody's going to be offended if you don't like props.cash. But listen, you see me use it every day on stream. You can tell. It's just a good product. All right, so let's go ahead and look at some of these player props. Starting things off, there's two that really stick out like a sore thumb. Michael Bridges of the Phoenix Suns, 12.5 points with a 70% hit rate, currently a -126 to go over. Anthony Edwards, Minnesota T-Wolves guard, 23.5 points, currently a 70% hit rate, -116 to go over. So those are your top two in terms of points. Right behind them, though, is Miles Bridges, not to be confused with Mikal. I know I screwed it up. I'm going to continue to screw up Michael Mikal Bridges' name. But anyway, the other Bridges, Miles Bridges. Yeah, he's at 18.5 points, 69.2% hit rate, currently a -116 to go under. So let's talk about a couple of these. Let's see what we got up on the PrizePicks board. As you guys continue to file in the chat, up to 55 viewers. I appreciate all of you joining in. What's happening to Angelicious, Reggie, smoke a bag of that, Geo, what's going on? Wesley's in the house. What's up, Wesley? Mr. Mittens is in here, man. Mr. Mittens holding it down. Dre da Kiss. What's happening to you, Dre? Appreciate you guys joining in. Goat's up in the building too. Shout out to Goat. He's been watching the content for a while. So Michael Bridges, let's look at him. Oh, see, I did it again. Michael Bridges, Mikal Bridges. I'm just going to call him Mike. I don't know. 13.5 points, guys. Let's look at the hit rate. 3 out of his last 5 games, he's gone over 13.5 points. PrizePicks has him up at a higher number, and that's because of the high hit rate. They expect him to potentially hit again at 12.5 points. So they decided to put him up 1 point higher than where he's at on most of your sports books. Let's dig into this prop though. Mikal Bridges. I'll get it right. Let me practice a little bit. Don't kill me. Don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just here trying to deliver these props to you. So Mikal Bridges at, well, that's Miles Bridges. What the hey? That's the wrong bridge. We've gotten lost here. We've gotten lost. Technical difficulties. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Michael Bridges, Mikal Bridges, whatever you want to call him. Tomato, tomato. 13.5 points on PrizePicks, 12.5 on your favorite sports book. Now, 12.5, 7 for 10 hit rate, 70% success rate at going over 12.5 points. Do we wish we had him at 12.5 points on PrizePicks? Well, of course we do, but we don't. So let's bump him up from 12.5 to 13.5 and see what happens to that hit rate. Well, things still holding strong here at 70%. Still a 70% hit rate even at 13.5 points. 14.8 points per game over the course of the season, which is also coincidentally the last 10 games. 14.4 points in his last 5. So things are starting to slide just a little bit, not a whole lot, but you can see why 8 points against Atlanta and 10 against Portland didn't get the job done there. So we scroll on down here. Look at this Memphis Grizzlies defense. They're not very good, guys. 29th in terms of points allowed, 29th in field goal percentage allowed, 27th in three-pointers allowed, 29th in three-point field goal percentage allowed, 12th in free throws allowed, and 21st against small forwards like Mr. Bridges here. So kind of gives you an idea. A lot of green here. Very good matchup, plus matchup here for Bridges. 222.5 implied points on the board with Phoenix, surprisingly, just a 1 point favorite. I know they're the visiting team, the road team, but, you know, I thought Phoenix would have a little bit more of an edge here, a little bit more of a spread in this game. But nonetheless, looks like it's going to be a pretty high scoring and competitive matchup. As far as Bridges and his minutes, about 35 minutes per game in his last 5. That presents an uptick versus where he's been in the last 10 games. So things are getting better, trending upward, more minutes for Bridges. In terms of his field goal attempts, he doesn't take a lot of shots. He's got to be super efficient with the shots he does take, but 10.6 field goal attempts in his last 5, a little bit of a downtick versus his last 10. So things are starting to trend down a little bit. Just a little bit, not anything dramatic or anything like that. Now we look at his three-point attempts, 3.8 three-point attempts in his last 10 games. Now he's attempting about 3.4 in his last 5. So once again, kind of coincides with his field goal attempts starting to drop off a little bit. His three-point attempts are also starting to drop off a little bit. So he's getting more minutes. He's just shooting the ball a little bit less. So maybe we blame Chris Paul for that. Chris Paul just needs to stick to assists and let the scoring be done by these other guys. So that kind of gives you an idea of Bridges. We talked about him quite a bit here. Let's go ahead and get you a projection. And for that, we're looking at numberfire.com. Numberfire, totally free. You can go out there, get those projections. They cost you nothing. 13.7 points is his projected number today. So that puts him obviously as a lean toward an over at 13.5. But I would call this a definite over if you're able to get him at 12.5 points on your favorite prop pick site. So there you have it. Mikal Bridges. See, I'm getting better, guys. I'm practicing here. I'm getting the practice in. I'm getting the reps in. That's how you get better at anything. So let's talk about another point prop with a high hit rate. Anthony Edwards at 23.5 points. Minnesota T-Wolves shooting guard, currently not up on the PrizePicks board from what it looks like. But that's okay. We could still do the research for you guys that do have access to Mr. Anthony Edwards on your favorite sports betting site. That's okay. I'm sure he'll be up on the PrizePicks board at some point. It is a late game though, so I don't blame PrizePicks for not having him up quite yet. Minnesota at LA tonight, and Edwards 23.5 points. 7 out of his last 10 games, he has gone over 23.5 points. That's a 70% hit rate. So things are looking pretty good here. Now, if we look at the course of the season, which is 10-game sample size, 25.9 points per game, so close to 26 points per game. And then in his last 5, things are trending up, 28.8. Now, a lot of that has to do with this big 48-point performance he put up against the Golden State Warriors. So, you know, a little bit of inflation, we'll call it, being pumped up there when you drop almost 50 points. That'll happen to your averages. Against the Lakers, though, not a defense that we're afraid of whatsoever. They rank 28th in points allowed, 14th in field goal percentage allowed, 3-pointers allowed, 21st. 3-point field goal percentage, 13th. And free throws allowed, 30th. And they're not very good against opposing shooting guards either, ranking 19th. That's kind of more down toward the bottom of the league. So pretty soft matchup overall here for Anthony Edwards. You got 223 implied points in this game, so plenty of points should be scored by both teams. And the spread is just 2 points, meaning this game is hopefully going to stay close and competitive. We don't want any blowouts. Blowouts are the bane of our existence, especially if we take overs on things like points, fantasy points, and stuff like that. Anything like a blowout will be the killer of our overs tonight. Now, if we look at Anthony Edwards' minutes, 38.2 minutes per game in his last 5 games. This is a pretty major uptick when you look at 36.7 minutes per game in his last 10. We're talking almost 2 more minutes per game. You can get a lot done in 2 minutes in an NBA basketball game. So Anthony Edwards' minutes are on the rise. You love to see that. You'd love to see that. That's what I was trying to say. Now, his field goal attempts also kind of trending upward slightly, 22.3 over the course of the season, 22.8 in his last 5. So he's getting plenty of shots. Look at this volume, man. You got to love the volume. 20 or more shots from anybody in a game. Yeah, you got to feel good about taking the over on their points props. 3-point attempts also pretty high, 10 or more threes in his last 5 games. That's a little bit of an uptick from his last 10-game sample size. So yes, Anthony Edwards will shoot the basketball a lot tonight and will look to score a lot tonight. So let's get you a projection on this points prop. No, we're not looking at Kessler Edwards. We want Anthony Edwards. And surprisingly, guys, 19.9 projected points. Does that seem off to you? It seems a little off to me. I mean, we round it up, we call it 20 points, and that puts him under today's projection of 23.5 by a lot. I don't know about that. I don't know if I trust the projections in this particular instance, but yeah, nonetheless, Anthony Edwards, I think, looks like a pretty good play to go over 23.5 points. What do you guys think, chat? Am I off my rocker here? I don't know. Kevin's up in the house. Kevin sings. I'd love to hear you sing, Kevin. Maybe I'll have you on the channel one day and we'll hear you sing. Unless that's just your last name and you don't sing at all. That would be really awkward, and I'm sorry for putting you in that position. Austin, you say I'm the GOAT. I'm not the GOAT. I'm far from it. I wish I was the GOAT. But I'll take it. Thank you for the compliment. Rogers up in the building. What's going on to you, Mr. Rogers? Well, not Mr. Rogers. That guy's dead, but you know what I mean. Mr. Rogers. All right, let's look at some of these points props here. Guys with low hit rates. We got Darius Garland at 19.5 points. Just a 10% hit rate, guys. Currently a minus 118 to go under. Are they giving us Darius Garland? They are, against the Detroit Pistons. So at 19.5, he's coming really close in a lot of these games. In fact, he's went over in one of his last 5 games, but you know, he's right there around that 19 upper teens range in terms of points scored. Let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. We will hit on this under real quick, and then we'll move on to the next stat category, which will probably be assists or rebounds. So let's look at Darius Garland. Obviously, we talked about Colin Sexton, torn meniscus. He's going to miss a bit of time here for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not to worry, though. They've got the likes of Ricky Rubio, Darius Garland in the mix. They've got the point guard and guard position covered mostly. So 19.5 points, 1 out of 10, guys. Just a 10% hit rate. You see a whole lot of red here. That's because he's not putting up major scoring outputs in most of these games here. 21 is his season high, which puts him barely over 19.5. So if we consider 21 to be his ceiling in his last 10 games, well, what's his floor? 9 points. 9 points being his floor, 21 being his ceiling from the looks of things. So he's going to have a ceiling type scoring performance tonight in order to go over 19.5 points. He's averaging 15.8 over his last 10 games and 18.2 over his last 5. So the scoring is up in his 5-game sample size. But I don't know, man. I don't have a whole lot of faith here. Looking at the larger sample here at 10 games, he's only went over once. He's a minus 118 to go under right now if you're playing on various sports books out there. Now let's look at this Detroit defense. Kind of a soft matchup here. They're 14th in points allowed, 30th in field goal percentage allowed. So they're allowing a almost 48% field goal percentage. That's terrible. That's actually the worst in the NBA. So high field goal percentage type of situation here potentially for Darius Garland. 15th in three-pointers allowed, 30th in three-point field goal percentage allowed. So they got the highest field goal percentage allowed and the highest three-point field goal percentage allowed. They're not really slowing anybody down or getting up in anybody's jersey, it doesn't sound like. Free throws allowed, 17th and 29th in point guard defense. So they're almost dead last in point guard defense. What position does Darius Garland play? Well, he's like a point guard, kind of a combo guard. So this might be a plus matchup for him. Here's the good news, though. Just 200.5 points, so less than 201 implied point total here. So this is not a very high total whatsoever, barely cracking the 200-point barrier. Cleveland, though, is a 4.5-point favorite at home. So it should stay close, but it should also be a very slow pace, low scoring type of game. He's getting about 36 minutes per game in his last 5 attempts, about 13 field goals in his last 5 games, so not a ton of field goal attempts. He's not like Anthony Edwards, who's getting 22 field goal attempts or anything crazy. In terms of three-point field goal percentage, been steady Freddy here across the entire season, averaging 6 3-point attempts. And he did take 10 against Washington in his last game. I don't expect that to continue. Those are outliers, 10, 9, 10. Most of the time, he's right there around 6 3-point attempts per game. So that kind of gives you an idea, Darius Garland, what to expect. I'd have to go under, I mean, based on what we're seeing here. Let's look at these projections, though, and see what they say here. Darius Garland, 19.6 projected points. That little 0.6 is a little higher than the 0.5 over on PrizePicks, guys. So make of that what you will. He'll probably be in the 19 to 20 point range. Again, if he goes over 19.5, it's because he's hit his ceiling. It's a ceiling type of game based on what we've seen in his game log. So I don't know. Can he do it? I guess he could against Detroit. I mean, they're giving up some pretty high field goal percentages and stuff. So maybe it could happen. Maybe it could happen. In terms of other guys that are having terrible hit rates in terms of points, James Harden, 20.5 points, just a 16.7% hit rate. He'd be one to take a look at, currently a minus 118 to go under. Drew Eubanks, I don't know if we'll get him up on PrizePicks. Maybe he's already up and I don't know about it, but 10.5 points, 18.2% hit rate on that number, minus 122 to go under. But that's it for points. Let's go ahead and move on to the next category. We'll talk about rebounds and see what we're liking. As far as these glass cleaners, maybe guys are cleaning the glass. Maybe they're failing to clean the glass. Up to 72 viewers. Good morning to everybody who's jumping in here. Chaz, what's happening, Chaz? The Skinny Day. What's up, Skinny Day? Yeah, Sexton was there for a lot of those games where Garland put up them points. Not there anymore. Pablo, good morning to you. Thanks for leaving that in the chat for us, Pablo. All right, rebounds. We got Ja Morant at the top of the trends list as far as high hit rate guys. He's covered 5.5 rebounds in nearly 73% of his game so far. He is currently, though, a minus 142 go under. So that's kind of an interesting dilemma, interesting situation. Nikola Jokic, Denver Nuggets big man, 12.5 rebounds, 70% hit rate. Currently also a minus 132 go under. So despite the high hit rates, people are putting the money on the unders on a couple of these high hit rate guys. Miles Bridges, 6.5 rebounds, nearly 70% in terms of hit rate, minus 134 to go over. So we talked about Mikal Bridges. Let's talk about Miles Bridges, who's at 6.5 boards, high hit rate guy. And the money is coming in on the over for this player prop. And you can kind of see why, right? 9, 5, 4, 8, and 9. So he's got a couple of stinkers sandwiched in between some really good rebounding performances where he put up 9 and 8 and 9. So let's dig into Miles Bridges a little bit and see how his rebound prop is looking, because he's been a guy who started the season out red hot. And I know in terms of like fantasy points and rebounds, like he's been a guy we've just been smashing overs on for the most part this season. If we look at his last 10 games, 6 out of 10, 60% hit rate. So not so good when you look at the 10-game sample size. If we look at the last 5 games, though, still hovering right there at 60%. Looking at the averages for the season, 7.5 rebounds, a little bit of a downtick at 7.4. And if you look at his last 5, even more of a downtick, flatlining at exactly 7 rebounds. But nonetheless, at 6.5 boards, people are smashing the over on this prop, it looks like. Looking at the New York defense in terms of rebounds allowed, they rank 21st, giving up a good amount of rebounds to the opposing team, 46.5 rebounds allowed per game, especially offensive rebounds where they rank 21st. Defensive rebounds, they rank 18th. And then in terms of defending the opposing small forward position, 10th. Now, looking at this game here, pretty high totals, right? 223.5 points. The game's going to stay close. It's a 2-point spread. Well, hopefully it stays close. It's a 2-point spread, so it should stay close according to Vegas lines makers. If we look at the minutes here, 37.3 in his last 5 games. That represents a high versus his last 10 and the full season minutes. So the minutes are up for Miles Bridges, getting plenty of run. And if we look at the offensive and defensive rebounds, you get an idea. These red bars represent how many total rebounds he has, and then the green down below represents how many of those rebounds were made up of offensive rebounds. So you kind of get an idea. Does a good job of collecting 1 to 2 offensive rebounds per game, and he's been sitting right around 7 rebounds per game on average over his last 5. So let's get you a projection on this particular prop, and we'll move on to the next one. Miles Bridges projected for 6.9 rebounds. So that puts him right there close to 7 boards. I'd have to lean toward the over here with the high totals. And the Knicks, they're not doing a very good job of keeping the other team off the glass. And this game looks like it could be a competitive one. So we should see a lot of Miles Bridges out on the court tonight. So I'd probably lean toward the over on Miles Bridges based on what we just showed you here. So if you have a different opinion, feel free to take the under or fade. You can always just not take a pick if you don't like the way things are adding up. So we talked about Miles Bridges. Let's go ahead and look at some of these other high hit props. We mentioned Ja Morant and Nikola Jokic. Let's see if either one of those are up on the board right now, because it's kind of an interesting conundrum that we're in. So I mentioned Ja Morant at 5.5 rebounds, has a 72.7% hit rate, but the money is coming in strong on the under at -140. So PrizePicks, they went ahead, took his 5.5 rebounds and brought it down to 5 rebounds. But if you look at his last 5 games, 7, 6, 6, 7. So at 5 rebounds, I kind of feel comfortable taking the over here and hoping that worst case scenario, he ends up at 5 boards. We end up in a push situation, and I don't lose a whole lot of money on this prop on PrizePicks. Now, if you're playing on a sports book out there, maybe you don't want to touch this one because the money is coming in strong on the under. But PrizePicks, they give you the advantage, the opportunity to push on these props. So it's not the worst thing in the world if he ends up at 5 boards. Let's go ahead and look at this game, though. We've got the Phoenix Suns versus the Memphis Grizzlies. We're going to take a look at Ja Morant's rebounds at 5.5. Then we'll take it down to 5 rebounds like it is on PrizePicks and see how he's done with that number. So at 5.5 boards, guys, 7 out of his last 10. That's a 70% hit rate. He's averaging 5.7 rebounds per game over the course of the season, but his rebounding numbers are actually trending upwards in the last 5 games, getting 6.4 rebounds per game. So things are looking good. He's actually trending in the right direction if we're looking to lean toward the over on this 5 rebound prop. Now, if we take this down from 5.5 down to 5, let's see if anything changes. Not really. Everything maintains. Everything stays the same in terms of hit rate. So we can move on. Look at this Phoenix Suns defensive matchup. They rank 13th in rebounds allowed, so they do a pretty good job of keeping teams off of the glass. We got to see if DeAndre Ayton's going to be in there or not right now. Game time decision for Phoenix, but that could be an impactful injury news. Offensive rebounds allowed 15th and defensive rebounds allowed 17th. They rank 3rd in point guard defense, which really probably doesn't impact his rebounding output a whole lot. But we talked about 222.5 points, pretty high total in this game. He's getting about 35 minutes per game. If we look down here at the rebound numbers, he's floating right around 1 to 2 offensive rebounds per game, and 6 or 7 rebounds on most nights. Let's get you a projection for Ja Morant and this rebound prop. Morant. He is at 4.5 boards, guys. So they like him to go slightly under 5 rebounds. So the money's coming in on the under. The projections are on the under, but the high hit rate, 5 out of his last 5 games, he has covered 5 or more rebounds. So I don't know, man. Might be a tough one. Might be one where you fade. Like I said, when things don't quite add up, when they don't align, like the projections, the way the money's coming in, the game logs, like when there's some, variance in between all of those things, I get a little bit worried and it makes me want to kind of run away from a prop. So that might be your best case scenario here. Just leave it alone if you don't feel great about it. Same thing with Nikola Jokic, right? We could also think of it that way. So let's move on from rebounds to assists, because I want to get to some of the questions that you guys are dropping in chat. Thank you so much for joining. William says he's going back to his favorite prop, Bruce Brown under 6.5 rebounds and assists. I don't think we've talked about that one yet. Zach, what's happening? Hawks fans in the building. Thanks for joining. Shadow's up in here. Thanks for joining, Shadow. Craig is in here. Good morning to you, Craig. Caden's up in here. Thank you. Appreciate you trying to pronounce Mikal right. Yeah, you know, it's all about growth, right? Growth mindset. We're trying to get better. We're trying to improve with our pronunciation, with everything we do in life. At least I am. You know, I'm trying to grow 1% better every day, and then that adds up over the course of time, right? So let's go ahead and look at some of these assist props. High hit rate assist props. We got Dennis Schroeder, Boston Celtics, top of the list here, 4.5 assists. Almost 73% of the time, he has gone over 4.5 assists. He's also a minus 134 to go over. So is the money smart? Or is that donkey money coming in on this over on Dennis Schroeder? Let's look at it a little bit closer because we haven't talked about my favorite German player in the NBA, Dennis Schroeder. Boston Celtics versus the New Orleans Pelicans. No, that's Brooklyn. No. Boston. Boston and Milwaukee. That's the game we want to look at. Boston and the Milwaukee Bucks. So Dennis Schroeder. Let's go find him here. 4.5 assists on props.cash. Go check out props.cash. I'm going to keep saying it. Down in the description of this video, you'll find a link. You can sign up for props.cash and get going today. 4.5 assists, minus 134 to go over. 7 out of 10, 70% hit rate in terms of covering this prop. He's averaging 5.8 assists per game over the course of the season. 5.6 in his last 10. 4.8 in his last 5. So things are starting to slow down here for Dennis Schroeder in terms of assists. And a lot of that last 5 game average has to do with the 3 bit of a stinker against the Orlando Magic and the 4 against the Toronto Raptors. So he went under in both of those games at 4.5 assists. Let's scroll down here. Look at this Milwaukee team. How many assists per game are they giving up? 22.5 to opposing players and teams. That ranks 13th in the NBA, so pretty stingy, pretty tough in terms of getting assists versus this Milwaukee Bucks squad. 211.5 implied point total with Milwaukee as 1.5 favorites on the road. So they are road favorites. Dennis Schroeder's minutes kind of going down a little bit here. If we look at the last 10, he was right around 32 minutes. Now he's about 30 minutes in his last 5 games. So I don't know, maybe a little bit of cause for concern. He's got to be out on the court in order for us to get these assists, right? So let's get you a projection on Dennis Schroeder's assists today. Type in his name, and he's at 5.7. So that's a pretty good number there. Puts him over 4.5 by about 1.2 assists. Closer to 6 assists than 5 assists. So, you know, trust these projections. Maybe you want to lean toward the over on Dennis Schroeder here. He's been getting it done for the most part. 5, 6, 6, 3 out of his last 5. He's done well. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. So Dennis Schroeder, high hit rate assist guy. We've also got Saddiq Bey up here at 2.5 assists at a 70% hit rate. Chris Paul's up here at 9.5 assists with a 70% hit rate. But they like the under on Chris Paul at 9.5 assists. That's where the money's coming in. Now, Saddiq Bey, he is a favorite to go over, a betting favorite to go over. We got him up here at 2.5 assists. Let's take a look at it because these numbers are looking pretty darn good for him. 7, 3, 4, 3, and 3. You don't think of him as a high assist guy, and he's not most of the games, right? He's like 3 assists at most, but he's got a high hit rate, so I think it's worth at least exploring it a little bit further here. The Detroit Pistons versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm sure everybody's got their popcorn ready for this one. Not really. But in his last 5 games, 3.8 assists per game. So he's almost at 4 assists. In his last 10 games, 3 assists. So the assists are trending upwards here for Bey, which is what you like to see. You like to see improvement, especially if you're targeting overs. Minus 112 to go over at 2.5 assists. We talked about the hit rate being 70%. Can't really ask for a better hit rate than that. In terms of this Cleveland defense, they're 19th in assists allowed, giving up exactly 24 assists per game to the opposing team. Yeah, the opposing team. 200.5 though, very low total. We talked about that already. 32.5 minutes per game for Bey. Let's get you a projection, kind of get an idea here. Saddiq Bey's been covering, guys. He's been covering this prop. Not mad at it. B-E-Y. That's how you spell his last name. 2.1 assists. So they got him going under 2.5, closer to 2 than it is 3, according to the Number Fire projections. So this is just one projection source. There's a lot of sites out there where you could get free projections for single stat player props, for fantasy points, but the one that we're using here, Number Fire, they like him to go under. They're leaning toward the under on Saddiq Bey, despite the fact that he's been smashing the over. So again, another one of those situations where the data, the information, the research isn't quite lining up like we would hope, but Sometimes you got to take a little bit of a risk. We are gambling after all, aren't we, folks? All right, let's go to some 3-point props, and then we'll get to your questions here. We're about 34 minutes into the stream. I like to leave the last 30 minutes for you guys to get some questions in. We can do some quick research on your favorite player props, the ones you're liking the most, or the ones that you're saying stay away from because it's not a high hit rate. At any rate here, James Harden, 2.5 3-pointers, 75% hit rate. Currently, not up on the PrizePicks board, but James Harden the other night, I think I took him over against my Orlando Magic at 2.5 3-point makes, and he shot only 4 threes and made 1. So he was 1 for 4, 25% 3-point field goal percentage. But currently at 2.5 threes, they got him as a minus 140 to go over. So that might be a look. We talked a little bit about Anthony Edwards and liking the over on his points potentially. He's got a 70% hit rate of going over 2.5 3-point makes. He's a big old minus 140 right now to go over. Joe Harris sitting at 2.5 threes, 66.7% hit rate, a minus 128 to go over. Unfortunately, we do not have Joe Harris up on the board. Do we have anybody with a high hit rate on the 3-point shots on the board? It doesn't look like it, right? Looks like PrizePicks is kind of keeping them away from us, holding out on us a little bit. We're not seeing any of these high hit rate 3-point props up on the board. Kemba Walker, 2.5 threes, but he's only at a 54.5% hit rate. A little bit of a revenge game, though, against the Charlotte Hornets for him. So let's move down and look at the low hit rate, guys. Maybe they've given us some that are not hitting at a high clip. Zach LaVine at 3.5, just a 9% hit rate. I would love if that was up on the PrizePicks board. Unfortunately, not seeing it. Devin Booker, not up on the board, just a 20% hit rate at 2.5 threes. Marcus Smart, 2.5 threes, just a 20% hit rate. So they're not giving us any of these juicy props right now for the 3-ball, unfortunately, guys. So screw it. Let's just go straight to questions. You know, let's just move on. Hopefully we get some more of these 3-point props, though. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Oh, back to the top we go. Yeah, Nick Batum was whack. His points, no bueno. Did not get there in terms of covering 10.5 points. Appreciate all 71 of you, by the way, who are tuning in. If we all drop a like on this at 71 viewers, we'll be at like 70% to goal, right? To our over 99.5 likes that I've set the line for. What else do we got in here? Crunchy says he hit a nice 5 out of 5 last night. Well, that's good for 10x, 10 times your payout on PrizePicks. Scotty Barnes points missed a second. He missed a second 5 out of 5 by just 2 points. Andre Drummond over rebounds did not work out. Yeah. Andre Drummond's minutes were very weird last night. For whatever reason, the Detroit Pistons, he's not a Piston. He's a 76er now, but they both wear red, white, and blue. Anyway, Doc Rivers did not elect to put Andre Drummond in until the last few minutes of the game for whatever reason. So lame, so lame. Angelicia says, live from North Korea. For real? Well, dang, man, we're international now. Good to see you from North Korea joining in. Reggie, we've already said what's up to you. What else we got going on in here? Anybody got some plays up in here? George said he's about that H2O life. Yeah, I'm about some water too. Got to stay hydrated. Focus says he really likes Darius Garland over 2.5 threes with Colin Sexton out. So we do have Darius Garland up on the 3-point prop board on PrizePicks. You really like it with Colin Sexton out. Well, last couple of games, he has gone over. 3 3-pointers made against Washington, 4 against New York. Going back against Portland, he had 5. So he's gone 3 out of his last 5 games in terms of going over this 2.5 3-point number. So, yeah, maybe you go back to Darius Garland and take the over with Colin Sexton out of there. Somebody's going to have to shoot the basketball. Might as well be Darius Garland. So we talked about his points earlier. Maybe we don't like his points as much. Maybe we like the 3-ball a little bit better here for Garland, who's hit in his last 2 games. And I believe both of those were without Colin Sexton. What else we got here? Pat C might be the move. Pat Connaughton might be the move for who? The Milwaukee Bucks with all the injuries. I think a lot of those guys that are game time decisions for the Bucks will end up playing. But yeah, Grayson Allen was on the injury report. I think Giannis was on there too. Focus says Devin Booker over 1.5 threes is looking, Interesting. All right. We don't have Devin Booker up at the moment, but we did talk about Devin Booker being a low hit rate guy at 1.53s. Well, I'm sorry, at 2.53s. He's a low hit rate guy. But you're saying Devin Booker at 1.53s. Where are you getting him at 1.53s? That's what I want to know. Because at 1.53s, things do get more interesting for Devin Booker. So maybe we could take a look at that. Phoenix, we already mentioned, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Should be one of those games that's pretty competitive here. And let's click Devin Booker's name because I'm not seeing him at 1.53s here on props.cash. They got him loaded in here at 2.5. But if we boot him down from 2.5 down to 1.5, well, hell yeah, we're liking some Devin Booker over 1.53s. Why wouldn't we? Things just turned from like murder 2.5 blood red here to green when we move them down to 1.53. So if you're getting them at 1.53 somewhere, yeah, smash the over. But we're looking at 2.5 everywhere that I see them. So interesting though, Focus, that you're able to get them at 1.5. You got to let us know. You got to drop that source. Where are you getting them at 1.53s? Because that's a prop I would want to take. George says DJ Murray stats looking good today. Is that DeJounte Murray that we're talking about? We don't have them up for any of the single stat player props, but if you play on PrizePicks, they do offer fantasy points. Of course, they use FanDuel's scoring system, which is also the same as Yahoo, I've been told. So maybe you like DeJounte Murray to go over his fantasy score. He's at 43 fantasy points today. He's gone over in 1, 2, 3 out of his last 5. So I'm not sure which DeJounte Murray prop you're liking, but yeah, he's been doing a good job. He does a little bit of everything. He fills it up for the San Antonio Spurs. So I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you if you like DeJounte Murray today. Goat says Darius Garland under the 3-point prop. Who the hell they think he is? Steph? Yeah, I don't know. Darius Garland, maybe in his last couple of games, we're starting to see a trend of him going over his 3-point makes. But, don't know if I love that. Jarrett Allen. AA says Jarrett Allen over 38 fantasy points. Maybe. Jarrett Allen's been getting it done. We mentioned Kevin Love might make his return to the Cleveland Cavaliers lineup and rotation. He's not a starter. I believe he comes off the bench. But Jarrett Allen at 38 fantasy points. Smashes at 57. Smashes with 54. Still getting there. 40, 47, and 39. 5 straight games where he's went over his fantasy score of 38 fantasy points. So let's pull something up here for Jarrett Allen. Maybe he smashes again tonight. 38.9, so almost 39 projected fantasy points, guys. So maybe you don't play fantasy points out on your favorite sports book, but if Jarrett Allen has a high fantasy projection, you could also think about it this way. Maybe he's a good candidate to go over his points, rebound, and assist line, PRA. So if you have PRA available, which we don't here on PrizePicks, instead we have fantasy points, maybe you take Jarrett Allen over points, rebounds, and assists. Dave says, going to the Hornets and Knicks game tonight. Congratulations to you. That should be a fun game. Is there anything that you like that I can sweat from the nosebleeds? Well, we did talk about Miles Bridges at 6.5 rebounds, I believe it was. That could look like a potentially good play. My buddy, Will Priester, you might know him as Chief Justice out on the Twitter sphere. He really likes going to some 3-point props from this game. Both of these teams ranking pretty low in terms of defending the 3 ball. So maybe you take some overs on some 3-point plays. Maybe a LaMelo Ball at 2.5. Maybe you take a shot at him. Maybe you go to RJ Barrett, who's sitting at 2 3-pointers. Hasn't really gone over 2 3-pointers in a lot of these games. So maybe you take the under here and hope that at the very worst he lands on 2 and you push on PrizePicks. Miles Bridges at 2 3-point makes. He's gone over or has hit 2 or more threes in 1, 2, 3 out of his last 5 games. But yeah, those are a couple that maybe you could look at. Both of these teams, again, pretty bad at defending the 3 ball. So maybe there's a lot of threes going up. The implied point total here over 220 points. So that could be a way to go if you're wanting to check out some player props from the nosebleeds in tonight's Charlotte versus New York game. Yeah, Rogers Miles Bridges over boards. We did look at that one. AA saying Ricky Rubio over 30.5 fantasy points. That could be a way to go too. Ricky Rubio obviously stepping into more minutes without Colin Sexton in the picture. 30.5 fantasy points for Ricky Rubio. Again, maybe you don't have Ricky Rubio's fantasy points where you play player props, but you could take points, assists, and rebounds here, or points, rebounds, assists, PRA. And maybe that's a good way to go for Ricky Rubio. In the last 2 games, guys, 54.6 fantasy points against the Knicks, 36.5 against Washington. So he's been doing a little bit of everything for this Cleveland Cavaliers squad. If we pull up a fantasy prop for Ricky Rubio, he's sitting at 27.4, which just doesn't seem like enough against the Detroit Pistons. I think this number's a little low. I would double check, maybe check another site, another resource for fantasy projections on Ricky Rubio, but they like him to go under 30.5 fantasy points, despite the fact that he's went over in his last 2 without Colin Sexton in the picture. So I kind of rock with you on that one, AA. I can't take all your props, AA. You're dropping like a lot of different props in here, but you know, hopefully that one helps you out with Ricky Rubio. George says Sadiq Bey 3-pointers under 2. You like going under on Sadiq Bey at 2 3-pointers. Let's take a look at Sadiq Bey. They have rounded him down here on PrizePicks. They've shaved off the hook. That 0.5 that you normally get on a lot of these props has been taken off, and now you're sitting at exactly 2 3-point makes. So he has not gone over 2 3-point makes in his last 5 games. The most he's topped out at is 2 3-point makes. So this could obviously land in a push situation where you end up in a tie. In other words, where he makes exactly 2 3-point makes. We can look at Sadiq Bey real quick and see how things kind of stack up in terms of him hitting threes and the defensive matchups and stuff like that. So he's at 2.5 threes on your favorite sports book. Now he's a -184 to go under at 2.5. So if you can get him at 2.5, 3-point make somewhere, absolutely take the under. Now on PrizePicks, we don't get the luxury of getting him at 2.5. Unfortunately, we get him at 2. Now at 2, in his last 5 games, that's been about the most he's been able to muster is 2 3-point makes. He does have some games in here where he's hit 3, 4, and 3, but that was earlier in the season. I think a couple weeks back, the dynamic has changed here. He's averaging just 1.2 3-point makes. If we look at this matchup, though, 3-pointers allowed. Cleveland does a pretty good job at defending. Of course, that dynamic could change with Colin Sexton being out of the lineup. Maybe he's was a big reason why they've limited teams to just 11 3-point makes over the course of the season. But they also rank 14th in 3-point field goal percentage allowed, just a .33, 33% 3-point field goal. Yeah, so I would go under on Sadiq Bey. On PrizePicks or on your favorite sports book at 2.5. I think that is a good way to go here. That's another key. I should actually point that out to you folks out there. You look at these PrizePicks props. Maybe you don't play on PrizePicks, but you play somewhere else. When you go on PrizePicks and you look at their board, if you're seeing props like this one where it's been rounded to 2, or if you see a prop like Sadiq Bey where it's been rounded to 2, up or down, RJ Barrett, another one where it's been rounded, that could probably mean that if you're playing on somewhere else, like another sports book or something like that, that those might be good plays for overs or unders. PrizePicks normally takes a very reactive approach whenever the juice is coming in strong on the overs or unders on your favorite sports book. It seems like they kind of mirror that, and they mitigate damages and losses on their end by rounding these props up or down. So if you're looking for like strong plays, maybe you play on another sports book, go to the PrizePicks board, look for the props that have been rounded, and maybe that's where you start your player prop research. If you don't have access to props.cash, that could be a way to kind of kick things off for your player prop research on your favorite sports book, because normally they're doing that because the prop has a high hit rate or that there's a lot of action coming in on the over or under. So that's a little bit of a hack, we'll say, to maybe save you some player prop research time. Something to keep an eye on going forward. What else do we have here? Crunchy Pie says he likes Ant tonight. Alexis, Giannis over rebounds. Do we have any Giannis props up yet? Because I know he was a game time decision. He is up. So here's another one. I was just talking about it. He's at 11 rebounds. PrizePicks, again, they know what they're doing, guys. They have went ahead and moved Giannis Antetokounmpo's rebounds. So let's pull up Giannis real quick. Take a look here and go to total rebounds. Milwaukee obviously facing the Boston Celtics. This will be a fun game. So he's at 11.5 rebounds on your favorite sportsbook, but they went ahead and rounded him down on PrizePicks to 11. Why have they done this? Well, he's a minus 132 to go under. So there's a lot of action that has come in on the under on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I know you'll look at his last 3 games and be like, well, why would anyone want to go under on a guy who put up 18, 16, and 15 rebounds? Trust me, there's a reason why. Like Nicholas Batum yesterday, 10.5 points. We were all thinking, man, he's been smashing for like 5 games in a row. There's no possible way that he goes under 10.5 points. But we started looking at the projections. We started looking at some of the sharp money on the various sports books out there. And what you know it, Batum ends up at what, 6 points? He did not go over 10.5 points. So use that to your advantage. Use some of this information that's going on out here on your various sports books, even your prop betting sites like PrizePicks and some of the other competitors that are out there. Use that information to your advantage, like an arbitrage type situation, if you're familiar with that term. Anyway, Giannis Antetokounmpo currently sitting at 11 rebounds. In his last 5 games, he's averaging 12.8. Now, a lot of that is being totally inflated here by these last 3 games where he's put up 18, 16, and 15 boards. But if you go back a little further, he had 7, 8, and 7 boards. So it's been kind of a mixed bag up or down. At 11.5, 50% hit rate. If we move it down to 11, still maintains that 50% hit rate. So this is kind of a coin flip type of prop here. But if you look at the Boston Celtics, they do rank 27th in terms of rebounds allowed. Very giving team, giving up almost 49 rebounds allowed to the opposing team. 18th in offensive rebounds allowed and 30th in defensive rebounds allowed. So 30th in defensive rebounds allowed. That's dead last in the NBA. So let's look at a projection for Giannis and his rebounds. Now that I've went on my rant here of PrizePicks rounding props up and down, they got him at exactly 11 boards, guys. So this could very well end up as a push situation for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Thanks for dropping that one, though. A couple of you, Alexis and AA, dropping those Giannis rebound props. Chaz, you want to look at SGA. What do you want to look at from SGA specifically? Because that could go a lot of different ways, like 4 or 5 different ways here on PrizePicks. So if you want me to look at something, you got to be a little more specific. Desmond Bane, Pablo wants to look at Desmond Bane under 3.5 rebounds. Well, Desmond Bane's been a guy that I've been taking some unders on recently. Let's see if PrizePicks has him up. They do. 3.5 boards, obviously taking on the Phoenix Suns. At 3.5 rebounds, he's gone under in 4 straight games. The last time he's went over was back on November 1st against the Denver Nuggets, where he puts up 6 rebounds, which I would probably consider that to be a little bit of, special circumstance, an outlier, so to speak. So we got the Atlanta Hawks versus, wrong team. Phoenix Suns versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's go to Desmond Bane here and his rebound prop at 3.5. Now currently at 3.5 rebounds, he is a minus 124 to go over 3.5 boards, despite the low hit rate in his last 5. So kind of interesting. We look at the bigger sample size here, which is a 10-game sample size, 4 for 10, 40% hit rate. So not a very good hit rate. He does not cover this prop very often. Looking at just his last 5 here, he had 1 against Charlotte, 3 against Minnesota, 0 against Washington, 2 against Denver, and then I mentioned that 6 rebound performance against the Denver Nuggets. So 1 game against Denver where he had 6, the very next game, just 2 rebounds. So he's kind of all over the place, right? In terms of rebounding the basketball, averaging just 2.4 rebounds in his last 5 games. So we move down here. We look at this matchup against Phoenix. They rank 13th in rebounds allowed, 15th in offensive rebounds allowed, 17th in defensive rebounds allowed. So just kind of middle of the pack, not super difficult in terms of rebounding, not real easy though. So kind of a middle of the road matchup here in terms of rebounds. So that kind of gives you an idea on Desmond Bane. Let's get a projection on his boards. B-A-N-E, real easy name to spell, 4.1 rebounds. So they like him to go over. The projections like him to go over 3.5. Maybe they think, hey, he's due in this matchup here against Phoenix. He's due. Ja Morant was another Grizzly that looked like a potential overplay just based on the high hit rate, in case you're just now joining us. So I don't know. I don't know if I love Desmond Bane. What else do we have here in chat? Thank you so much for everybody. 90 viewers, guys. Drop those likes on this video. If you're getting any value out of this, if it's helping you save time doing your player prop research, I'm just here to help. I'm here to do my part for every one of you out there that are viewing this live stream. So if you're getting any value out of it, I appreciate the like. I really, really do. What else do we got here? Julius Randle post says Julius Randle rebounds. Well, we could look at Julius Randle's rebounds. We haven't talked a whole lot about Julius Randle. He's at 9.5 tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte, not typically known to be a very difficult team in terms of their interior presence. Not really a dominant big man there for, what, like a decade now? 14 boards against Indiana, 12 against Milwaukee, putting him well over 9.5. Fall short against Cleveland with just 8 boards. Of course, we know they have the likes of Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, so kind of a tough matchup. Philadelphia, he gets 12 rebounds against them. And then Milwaukee, just 5 boards against the Bucks. So let's look at Julius Randle real quick. We'll just pull up a projection for him and move on, take some more questions. Julius Randle projected for 9.9, very, very close to 10 rebounds. We already talked about this one being a pretty high total game. Almost 225 implied points. The spread's going to be close, meaning hopefully it stays competitive and we don't get any kind of blowout situation. And again, Charlotte, not a team that we're really fading players against, especially big guys like Julius Randle. So I don't mind you going there whatsoever. Don't mind that at all. What else do we have here? Shadow says Westbrook triple-double tonight on his birthday. What do you think? Well, that's certainly a narrative. I think that's a pretty good narrative. Is Russell Westbrook going to ball out on his birthday? Maybe. No LeBron James for the Los Angeles Lakers, so Westbrook will have an opportunity to do whatever the heck he wants. If there's a prop out there for for Russell Westbrook, rather, to go over a triple-double or get a triple-double, then yeah, maybe we look at that. Crunchy Pie, thank you so much for the super chat. Man, we don't get these very often. I wish you guys would use it more. It helps support me as a content creator. Super chat, in case you didn't know, it highlights whatever your comment is and puts it right there on the screen, on the radar, so that I don't miss it, because there's a lot of questions. These streams are growing daily. We're getting more and more questions, more and more inquiries. So I appreciate you, Crunchy Pie, for using the super chat. He says, thanks for doing this for us, CJ. Hit that like, y'all. Hey, you heard the man. You know, it ain't coming from me. It's coming from Crunchy Pie. So, you know, if he says it, he's got to mean business. Appreciate you, Crunchy Pie. Thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see what else you guys are talking about here. Maybe we can land on a few more props before we wrap the stream up. We'll go for about 5 or 10 more minutes and then let you guys get out of here. Go grab some lunch, some breakfast. Go lock in some entries on PrizePicks. Let's see here. Hawks fan says, how many legs is best on PrizePicks? 2-pick power plays, 5-pick flex? Well, it depends. So I kind of think of it, if you've ever played on DraftKings or FanDuel, in these terms. So your 2-pick plays and your 3-pick plays, think of those as like cash games or double up contests. In other words, you're not going to get a big reward for going with a 2-pick play or a 3-pick play, but it's going to be the easier odds, right, to hit 2 picks or 3 picks versus 4 picks or 5 picks. So I think of those as like cash games. Now you could choose whether you want to flex a 2-pick play or flex a 3-pick play, or maybe you want to take the risk and go power on both 2 or 3. If you're looking to grind out a bankroll, take the slow and steady approach, and you're not trying to win all the money in one night, well, go for a 2-pick play and flex it. I mean, what's wrong with doubling your money? We doubled our money all the time. We entered those cash game lineups into DraftKings and FanDuel, right? At least I did. And I was trying to grind out a bankroll. I would play those double ups all day long. So that's kind of my approach. If you want to go for the home run, the big hitter, 4-pick power play gets you 10x, 5-pick flex play gets you 10x your money. So it depends on your approach. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What is your bankroll like? How much money are you willing to put out there on a given night? You know? So you want to take the slow and steady approach and grind it out. I'd say stick to the safer plays, the 2s and 3s, 2s and 3 pick entries. And, you know, nothing wrong with flexing, man. We get to do this every single day. This is daily fantasy sports, right? We don't have to win all the money tonight. We can win some money tonight and then try to win some more money tomorrow, right? So you could take the slow and steady approach. That's just my 2 cents, kind of a, you know, thoughts on that subject. So what else we got here? We got a few more minutes. Let's take a look at some of these other player props, see what you guys are talking about. George says, Oh, wait, Chaz says, good morning. Can we look at SGA points and assists hit rate when you get a chance? Yeah, let's look at it real quick, Chaz, as we look to kind of wind things down here on the stream. Sacramento Kings versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. So you want to look at SGA points and assists. Okay, let's look at the points. SGA, 23.5 points in his last 10 games, 6 for 10. That's a 60% hit rate, guys. Not a super high hit rate, but not terrible. Not terrible. He's averaging 21.8 points per game in his last 5, which represents a downtrend versus where he was for the last 10 games at 22.6. So things starting to kind of slow down in terms of scoring for SGA. A lot of that has to do with this 14-point performance against the Spurs and the 15-point performance against the Golden State Warriors. Those are really starting to tank his averages in the last 5 games. So there's his points. Let's look at his assists. In terms of the last 10 games, 5 out of 10, also not a super high hit rate, 50%, kind of a coin flip situation. But you look at his last 3 games at 4.5 assists, 6 assists, 9 assists, and 5 assists. In his last 3, he's gone over in 3 straight games. But he does have 2 really bad games where he assisted in just two assists against Golden State and against the Los Angeles Clippers. So kind of tougher matchups against Golden State and LA. But yeah, there you go. Quick look at SGA points and assists. What else are we talking about here? George, Tatum rebounds trend looks pretty good. Jason Tatum, Boston Celtics, 7.5 boards. Now, just that number kind of sounds high to me, just right off rip. But if we look at his last 3 games, looks like he's covered in 1, 2, 3 straight. And in his last 2 games, 11 boards and 12 boards against Dallas and Toronto. Now, Dallas and Toronto, not very tough teams interior-wise. So maybe that has a little bit to do with it. Let's pull up a projection on Jason Tatum's rebounds real quick. Tatum sitting at 8 projected boards. They like him to go over 7.5. So he's gone over in 3 straight, 60% hit rate in his last 5, and he's projected for 8 boards. So maybe you go back to Jason Tatum's rebounds against the Milwaukee Bucks. They're probably going to be playing somewhat undersized. Expect Bobby Portis to get the start if Brook Lopez doesn't suit up. Yeah, maybe you go back to Jason Tatum over those rebounds. What else are we talking about, though? What else we got? Let's take a couple of more. George says, I'm snoozing through that game. Lowe says, yes, sir. Bay hit the over for me at least 3 times already. Go for it. Ball over 6.5 assists. Yeah, we talked about liking some Charlotte Hornets and New York Knicks props. Should be a high-scoring, close competitive game. Yeah, focus Devin Booker over 1.5 threes. We talked about that one earlier. I didn't see Devin Booker at 1.5 threes anywhere. Chris Paul over on assists. Well, you're going to get Chris Paul at 9 assists on PrizePicks. They've rounded him down from 9.5 down to 9. So depending on where you play at on PrizePicks, he's sitting at 9. You could see in his last couple of games has not come close to going for like 10 assists. So he's been under in the last 2, but the 3 previous games, 13, 14, and 18 dimes for CP3. If we look at a projection on his assists today, 9.4, so closer to 9 than 10. So I could see why PrizePicks has taken the low number here and rounded this prop from 9.5 down to 9. So I'd be careful with that one. What else are we talking about, guys? What else are we... Crunchy Pie says he's liking Giannis over rebounds and Horford under rebounds tonight. Interesting, because we think of Al Horford so far this season as a high hit rate guy for rebounds. But I will give you this, Crunchy Pie. He hasn't been getting it done in terms of cleaning the glass in his last couple of games. So I'm getting a little worried. It might be time for me to hop off the Al Horford train. I think he was up at 8.5 rebounds at one point. His line has now plummeted down to 7 rebounds over the last couple of games. That number has kind of come down from 8.5 a few nights ago down to 7 at the moment on PrizePicks. So in his last 3 games, he's went for 7 or fewer rebounds in 3 straight. But if you go back to Orlando and Chicago, 10 boards, 12 boards. So yeah, it might be time to get off of Al Horford. I don't know. I think the Toronto situation was a little bit of a matchup issue for Al Horford. Who's he really going to guard out there defensively? Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes? Not really. Doesn't match up well against those guys. Maybe he matches up a little bit better against the likes of like Bobby Portis, but Milwaukee is going to go kind of small ball themselves, right? If Bobby Portis starts, he's more of a power forward than a center. If he's a center, he's like an undersized center. So I don't know if Al Horford's going to see him or if it's going to be Robert Williams, but I don't know how to feel about Al Horford anymore. I was liking that. I was smashing the overs on his rebound props almost every single night. Now it seems like it's a little bit risky. Yeah, we talked LaMelo over 6.5 assists. Kevin, we talked about liking some Charlotte Hornets, New York Knicks over in that game. I think that's a definite good way to go with the high totals and the close spread. Lowe says, CJ, could you go over the highest and lowest rebounds and assist hit rates again? I'm not going to go back and do it again, Lowe. I love you, but I don't love you that much. This video will be posted up on YouTube here shortly, and you can absolutely hit the replay button and skim right through everything if you didn't catch this live. But no, for the sake of everyone watching, I'm not going to go back and talk about the hit rates, unfortunately. I'm sorry. I love you, though, Los. Nothing personal, nothing personal. Call Me Abel likes SGA's fantasy points over. So if you're liking SGA's fantasy points over, you might also like SGA over points, rebounds, and assists. Another way to play SGA, maybe you don't get fantasy points wherever you play your player props. But Chaz says, yeah, once SGA is up on PrizePicks, he's definitely going over. Evan Mobley under 18.5 points. Yeah, 18.5 kind of sounds high just off the top of the dome here with Evan Mobley at 18.5. Let's look at his game logs real quick. Well, he's actually kind of been getting it done. He's went over in his last 2 games, so those are, I think, both games without Colin Sexton. Previously, though, 18, 11, and 15 gone under in 3 straight games before he hit this little wave of going over. So let's pull up a projection for Evan Mobley. They got him at 16.5, so yeah, that's 2 points less than where he's at on PrizePicks today. So, you know, projections, 2 points under 18.5. I mean, I would check a couple other projection sources before locking it in, but that could definitely be a good look going under on Evan Mobley's points. What else do we got here? Craig. What are you saying here, Craig? I really like the over on points and rebounds for Randall. Yep, we talked about Randall and those rebounds at 9.5 being a pretty good way to go. You guys are leaving a ton of props up in here. Any juicy Mobley picks? Yeah, YSL, we talked about Mobley just now. Hopefully you like the underplay on his points. That might be a good way to look. Man, you guys are just dropping too many. You're going to have to get on that super chat train like Crunchy Pie. There's just no way I can get to all of these in the hour runtime here. We're already over the 1 hour limit, but yeah, trying to see what else you guys got going on here. Said, what's happening? Said, glad for you to be able to join. I know it's a little late, but you're up in here, so I appreciate you. Shout out to you. Demetrius, shout out to you. Check out Jared Allen on fantasy points. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Jared Allen already, liking him in terms of fantasy points or points, rebounds, and assists. Evan Mobley, yeah, 18.5. We like the under on Evan Mobley. George says, avoid Al Horford at all costs. Yeah, I got to see Al Horford pick up those rebounds. His rebound numbers got to go back up. But yeah, we're reaching the end here, guys. It is Friday. Let's make some cash. You heard George. Let's try and make some cash today, guys. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go grab some lunch. You guys go grab some lunch, grab some breakfast, wherever you're watching from. Maybe you're watching the replay, and it's dinner time. Grab some dinner. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Notifications are turned on, and leave a like on this stream, and maybe I'll see you this weekend. If not, I'm definitely going to catch you on Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. I'll be back at it, doing more player prop research for you guys. I appreciate all the love and support, and from me to you, mwah, a big kiss. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Peace.